The Dark Secret of WEATHEREND by John Bellairs. Chapter 11. There in the wide doorway stood Emerson Eels. In the stormy half-light, he looked like a visitor from another world. He was wearing a black fur alpine hat with a small red cockade on it, and a gray winter coat with large black buttons. Oddly enough, on his feet were pointed black leather shoes instead of boots or galoshes. And although the street outside looked slushy, Emerson's shoes were immaculately clean. Miss Eels and Anthony looked quickly at each other, but neither of them moved an inch. Normally, Miss Eels would have rushed over and thrown her arms around Emerson, but she was afraid. He had not been acting like himself when he left her house, and his sudden reappearance. Miss Eels bit her lip and tried to fight down the fear that was rising inside her. How had Emerson known that she and Anthony would be here? "Hello there," he said, raising his mittened hand and waving. But the wave was a weak one, and his smile seemed cold and formal. His pale blue eyes glittered coldly behind his spectacles. Again, Miss Eels glanced nervously at Anthony. Then she took a couple of uncertain steps forward. "Em!" she exclaimed. What on earth are you doing here? How did you know? I tried to get you on the phone, but..." Emerson beamed reassuringly. "Oh, I just guessed," he said blandly. "I've always thought that I might be blessed with ESP or some such power. In any case, I'm glad my instincts led me here." He glanced quickly toward Miss Eels's wrecked car, and he added, in the same calm, lilting tone, "I gather that you two are in need of some assistance. Am I right?" Anthony watched Miss Eels intently, wondering what she would say. If Emerson was in the power of Anders Borkman, then would they want his help? Miss Eels walked slowly forward until she was standing only a few feet away from her brother. She stared steadily into his eyes. "Em, are you all right?" she asked. Emerson seemed slightly startled, but the bland smile did not fade. "Of course I'm all right," he said evenly. "Whatever made you think that I wasn't?" Miss Eels said nothing, but the puckered frown on her face told Anthony that she was definitely wary. Emerson's smile faded, and for an instant there was a flicker of irritation in his eyes. "I'm here to help," he said, "but I get the impression that I may not be wanted." Again, Miss Eels was at a loss for words. She began to stammer, and tears sprang to her eyes. "Oh, no, Em, not at all. I'm awfully glad to see you, well, you seem sort of odd." Emerson laughed. "Odd? I'm just trying hard to be calm, which I gather is not the correct thing to be doing right now. But we're wasting time, aren't we? It's clear that you were going somewhere and that you've had an accident. Were you on your way up to see me?" There were a few tense moments while Miss Eels seemed to be debating with herself. Finally she spoke. "We're going up to Duluth, Em, and we need a ride badly. Can you drive us?" Anthony gasped. Miss Eels was taking a chance, and he felt in his heart that she was wrong. But she was older and wiser than he, and Emerson was her brother. Maybe it would work out. Emerson looked strangely surprised. "Duluth? Why do you want to go there?" "Never mind. It's private business. But the question is, will you drive us? If you won't, I can rent..." Emerson cut her off with a wave of his hand. "Nonsense! I won't hear of it. If you don't choose to tell me why you're going to a ridiculous place like Duluth at this time of year, well, I suppose you don't have to. My car's outside, so if you will just finish what you're doing, we can go. But we'd better hurry. There's a storm brewing, you know." Miss Eels hesitated again. Then she turned to Mr. Johnson, who had been watching the two of them. On his face was his normal look of dopey amusement. "I guess I won't be needing your car rental service after all," said Miss Eels half apologetically. "So if you'll tell me what the towing bill is, I'll pay it and we'll be on our way." After Miss Eels had written Mr. Johnson a check, she sent Anthony out to the Dodge to bring back the tool bag. Then they followed Emerson out of the garage and down the street. There, parked by the curb, was Emerson's car. He drove a 1938 LaSalle, the big, bulky, old-fashioned luxury sedan with the high metal grille and teardrop-shaped headlights. Miss Eels smiled when she saw the old car. Somehow it seemed reassuring, a reminder that Emerson was still the same person he always had been. When the tool bag had been stowed in the trunk, Anthony climbed into the back seat, and Miss Eels got in front with her brother. They drove for miles. Snow was still falling, but the road had been plowed, so it was not as slippery as it had been. However, it was obvious that the weather was going to get worse. Behind them, to the south, the sky was black, and the wind seemed to be getting stronger. Hard gusts hit the car, making it sway and shudder. Anthony peered out of the windows, but all he could see was trees and snowy fields. It was really getting dark now. Anthony took his penlight out of his pocket and played the beam on his face of his watch. 4:15. He wondered how long it would take to get to Duluth. Miss Eels had reserved a room at the Hotel Duluth, and they planned to check in before driving to the cemetery. But the accident had messed up their plans, and this storm was going to mess them up even more. Anthony sighed and began to imagine the hotel room, flowered wallpaper, a warm bed with a blue fuzzy blanket, a table with a lamp, and... Suddenly, Anthony stopped daydreaming. A disturbing thought had just occurred to him. The two people in the front seat had been silent since the beginning of the trip. Usually Miss Eels and Emerson talked like crazy together. Anthony looked toward the motionless heads in front of him, and he was afraid. Suddenly Emerson broke the silence. "Myra?" "Yes, Em." Miss Eels's voice sounded cold and a bit trembly. "Why are you going up to Duluth? I really would like to know." A pause. The motor purred on, and a gust of wind shook the car. I'd rather not tell you," said Miss Eels in a strained, guarded voice. "I see," said Emerson coldly. He paused again, and then added in an unpleasant, biting tone, "I must say it all seems strange to me. We're brother and sister, after all, and we're used to confiding in each other. So why won't you tell me?" Miss Eels took a deep breath and let it out. "Well, Em, if you must know," she said at last, "I haven't felt like trusting you lately. Ever since our visit to Anders Borkman's estate, you've been acting strange. I was wondering if he, well, maybe hypnotized you. There, I've said it, and it's a relief to get that off my chest." Anthony sat up, tense and rigid on the seat. His heart was pounding now. What would Emerson say? Would he be hurt or angry or worse? When Emerson spoke, his voice had a sly, mocking tone that chilled Anthony. "You don't know what kind of person Borkman is at all. You don't have the slightest, tiniest idea. And because you are ignorant and foolish, I say, woe unto you. May you perish from the surface of the earth." Anthony's body grew rigid with terror. These last hateful words were spoken in a resonant voice that was not Emerson's. It was the voice of Anders Borkman. And as Anthony watched, the car slowed and Emerson's body began to dissolve, literally unravel into strands of gray smoke till it disappeared. Then the windshield and windows melted and ran like water. The rest of the car turned to a bluish-black smoke, and the seat Anthony was sitting on shriveled and dwindled until Anthony was dumped with jarring, painful suddenness on the hard, snowy surface of the road. Miss Eels landed near him, and with a clunk, the tool bag fell nearby. Suddenly, they were alone, stranded on an empty highway in the black night with a howling storm coming on.